Welcome to Beyond the Policy, the podcast where we go past the fine print and into the real stories that shape how we live, work, and protect what matters most. I'm Matt Carafa, risk advisor, consultant, and founder of the Be Better Foundation, where each week sit down with clients, colleagues, and industry voices to talk about business, life, and the passions that drive each of us and the areas we can all work on to truly be better. This is Beyond the Policy. Welcome to Beyond the Policy. Excited to have another episode. Get into our guest today, Steve Soloria with the Cincinnati Financial Corporation. So Steve, thanks for taking some time to be here today. And before we get started, just tell the people what you're up to these days and maybe how you got here, which I know is a loaded question, but
All right.
Let's start there.
All right. Currently the Executive Vice President, Chief Investment Officer at Cincinnati Financial. Spend most of my day overseeing what's going on in the marketplace and how our portfolio is reacting to that. And obviously with cash flow, trying to put money to work back into the markets to help the insurance companies build a stable balance sheet to write all that insurance.
Yeah, and we'll come back to that as we start kind of growing up in Cincinnati and how you got there. Because in the day-to-days of insurance, talking to a lot of people when it comes to risk, but you're on the complete opposite side of, it's still important because that's where the funds come from. So I'm excited to get into that and kind of get into your day-to-day. But as we get started here, growing up in Cincinnati, we share that. I moved away and but still love the city, and you've been growing up here and working here your whole life. So maybe just where'd you go to high school and kind of your start here?
Sure. Well, born and raised in Cincinnati, grew up on the west side of town, Elder High School. A tight-knit community that doesn't let their people escape. Somehow I was able to. But growing up there, the typical Catholic family, going to school, playing sports, got the opportunity to play sports in college. Ended up at the University of Cincinnati playing baseball. As much as I tried to leave town, I couldn't get out of here. But it's all worked out well. Got out of school, tried to sign professionally, didn't work out for me, but was fortunate enough to land a spot here at Cincinnati Insurance, Cincinnati Financial. Started on the underwriting side and haven't looked back. Been here, celebrated 35 years back in October.
Wow, that's awesome. Congrats. And I think
Thank you.
we were chatting before of, in a lot of industries out there, especially today, having that success at one place and not hopping around and going somewhere to, take the promotion or whatever. So I think that speaks to the culture here and the value that you bring. So with your UC undergrad, I always like the correlation of sports and, carry that over into professionally. So playing baseball at a high level, that moment when you tried to make it professionally and said, what was that moment where you're like, I got to figure out real life? How'd that go for you?
After, I don't know, it must have been about 9 or 10 months of going to tryouts and getting the same story. Hey, you're good enough to play. Someone will sign you. Keep plugging away. And, after a while, you get to the point, it's like, you know what? I've got a good education. I've got a good background. Let's move forward in a different direction. So it was a tough job market at the time, which made it a difficult transition. But again, I was fortunate. I got an opportunity. I got the interview and happened to run into a guy out at a baseball game somewhere, and he said, "Hey, I heard you got an interview here." He was kind of a high-ranking guy here, and he said, "Hey, throw my name out there. It's not going to get you the job, but it should get you the next interview." Certainly helped. It opened some doors where, I still had to come in and kind of sell myself to the company, but I was able to get in and start on the ground floor and kind of climb my way up. And, baseball is sports in general are a good transition for that.
Yeah.
You develop skill sets, you develop a mindset of being able to take constructive criticism, work hard, put your head down and grind. And at a lot of places when you're starting on the ground floor, that's what they want. They want people that are just going to grind and work hard. Right. And over time, as you get a better understanding of what it is you're doing, you're able to kind of advance and take on more responsibility and, sort of climb the corporate ladder.
Right. You hit on something there that I think is very important. I have young boys and, even college kids or high school kids that you talk to, and the relationships and the people you meet early in life, you never know how they're going to help you down the road. Sports, I think it happens all the time, you know, going through teams and different things. But also I caddied at 2 courses here growing up in Cincinnati, and there's probably still a handful of guys that I talked to, 2 of which helped me get my first job out, and that was 10 years prior to meeting them. So with that comment you made early on in your transition time, are there any mentors, whether it's a coach, you know, someone, you know, from your family or growing up in that community that kind of helped you get started in, you know, on that path to...
There were a lot of folks that influenced me over the years, obviously my parents, but coaches, I could rattle off every coach I had over, you know, every team I played for. There were a couple professors. There were a lot of dads of some of my best friends growing up. My parents divorced at an early age. I was 11 or 12 years old, so all of a sudden my dad wasn't around every day. But I'm in all my friends' homes all the time hanging out with them, so a lot of their dads helped shape me, helped develop a lot of those fatherly things, as well as my dad. So I got a lot of contributions, you know, like I said, the West Side's a community, you know, I kind of got raised by the community, if you will, so.
And another question I'd like to dig into, you know, we've had a lot of coaches, I'm sure you had a lot of coaches through your career. Do you think there's any common theme where you related to more than others, whether it's how they treated you or how they handled, you know, maybe you struck out and you really needed to hit? Did they reprimand you? Did they discipline you? What was kind of your feel when it came to the coaching philosophy that you think helped you be successful?
I think the guys that poured into you to correct you, to correct the mistakes, I found that invaluable. You know, at the moment you're a little upset, you're moping around a little bit, but if they're willing to pour into you and give you the advice, hey, work on this, move this, do something different, that certainly helps. So I found, as I said earlier, constructive criticism really helped shape me. If you can't take criticism and turn it into a positive and really use it to make yourself better, you're not going to move forward in this world. And you know, whether it's a coach or a teacher or a boss, you've got to be able to take that constructive criticism and turn it into, okay, how is this going to make me better, and use that as motivation going forward.
And I think that, again, you know, my be better philosophy, whether, again, I try to do it in everything, be a better dad, coach, you know, whatever it is. And I think, I want to say all kids starting out, but they just want it fast and they want it easy and they want it now.
Yeah.
And if someone does reprimand you or say, hey, that wasn't good enough, what do you mean it's not good enough? I've done it the whole way, and no one's done that, and they haven't been able to positively work through that. So I think that's very tough. And I think I see cycles with hopefully the younger kids coming in and being able to take that, because I think that's a skill that's developed and not just, you know, go do it.
Couldn't agree, and I hope it doesn't go away. You kind of see it in spurts, and I would love to see that come back to fruition, where more kids are getting more of that constructive criticism, that, you know, parenting, if you will. Parents need to parent. They can't be their best friends. So, you know, you've got to teach and motivate and pull along and nurture when things don't go well. There's a whole cycle.
Yeah, and I think one coach, when I asked that question, I had a coach that, you know, my playing time wasn't up there with the others, but when we were in the strength in the weight room, we were all equal.
Yes.
And it doesn't matter if you slacked off, played, doesn't matter. Like, you're in here, you're all at the same standard.
Yeah.
And I think that, you know, goes up and down, but again, you learn a lot of, hey, I'm being held to the same standard as everybody else, and I got to work through that stuff. So
Yeah, absolutely.
yeah. And now, going back to kind of what we talked about early on with your day-to-day job now, and kind of getting into the piece, and I'm sure we can get into lots of details of it, but at a high level, I'll explain it mine and then you can put your spin on it.
Sure.
You know, from the insurance company's standpoint of all the policies that are sold, you know, the premium comes in and there needs to be certain dollars that are paid out for claims and, you know, staff and buildings and everything else that you have. But there's a chunk of money that's left over that needs to be invested and put for, you know, to be there at the end to grow, you know, future claims and et cetera. So that's my view in a nutshell, but maybe to walk us through the day-to-day of what you're responsible for and what you do here for the insurance company.
No, you hit it on exactly. So the insurance company is obviously putting a lot of policies out there. There's a lot of cash flow coming in. A lot of it's put aside to cover reserves, claims, things like that. But there's also an allocation sent to our department on the investment side, and it's our role to provide financial stability for the insurance company. At the end of the day, we're an insurance company, we pay claims. So we've got to have the financial stability to do it. So it's our goal to build up a financial portfolio that allows us to continue to do that. So it's predicated on cash flow. We need cash flow coming in from interest on bonds and dividends on stocks to be able to generate cash flow to pay claims, to reinvest into the market, to grow the portfolio even bigger. So at the end of the day, it's kind of a twofold or two-pronged attack. We provide stability on the financial side to the company, with the balance sheet, but we're also a profit center. We're trying to make profit on the investments to add to the profits, hopefully, on the insurance side of things. So it's a double-edged, opportunity for us, if you will.
Sure.
And we take both sides seriously. So.
Yeah. You stated early on your first job was in underwriting, and now you're on the investment side. When was that transition, and what point did you realize, hey, I think I want to go this side? What drew you to that? And
It's interesting. I wasn't pursuing a career in investments. I was in underwriting commercial lines for about 2 years, and at that time you were kind of in a probationary period. So every 6 months you got to sit down with your boss, and it was kind of a review of what you're doing well, what you could improve upon, how you view things, where you see yourself in 5, 10, 15 years. And I was 2 years into my career. I was excited with what I was doing, but didn't really know what I wanted to do. I really thought my career would be on the insurance side of things, and I could have seen myself climbing the ladder, being a manager in commercial underwriting. And I did mention a couple times, hey, this would be interesting, maybe something in accounting or maybe something in finance or investments. So they were just casual mentions. They weren't targets, if you will. But it was in my file in HR, and an opportunity came up 2 years into my underwriting career. It was in my file, and there was an opportunity in the investment department. I got a call from the chief investment officer asking me, hey, you've mentioned this as an interest. Would you like to talk to us? And I said, sure. So I went and talked. I interviewed with him. I interviewed with his number 2 in the department, and got a call a week later, and he said, hey, we really liked what you had to say, but we're going to go in a different direction. So I'm kind of heartbroken, and then he says, but if you're willing to go back and get your master's, we'll bring you up in 6, 7 months. So I turned around, and within a couple weeks, I was registered for classes at Xavier University, working on my MBA, and this would have been December, January of 92, July of 1993. He pulled me up to the investment department, and I've been up there for 33 years. So.
just like that.
Just like that.
Flies right by.
Just the way I planned it.
Yeah, just like you drew it up, because the school hole mapped out.
Right.
But in those 33 years, obviously the market is what it is, up, down, volatility at that. Other than, managing that and making sure you have, productive returns, what else is in your day-to-day of, managing portfolio, cash flow coming in, but anything else on the day-to-day, whether it's managing your people and your team, but what else part of it?
You hit on it right there. You're managing people who are, some are very experienced, and they know exactly what they need to do, and they just need a little bit of direction. We've got newer people in the department that really need to be poured into. We're trying to mold them. We're trying to give them, let them share their experiences and their knowledge and the new technologies they bring to the table, but we're also trying to shape it around our approach to investing, our strategy. So we're teaching them a lot. So there's a lot of mentoring that goes on as well. Yeah. Every now and then things creep up in the marketplace where an investment doesn't go the way we thought it would go, and we need to make some tough decisions, or maybe something's under pressure, but we think the long-term outlook is still good. Do we have the capability to invest a little bit more into it? So there's a lot of day-to-day decisions about monitoring what we've got in the portfolio, what are the new opportunities, and those things that are kind of on, we're treading lightly on.
Sure.
Can we double down, or do we need to cut bait and move on?
Yeah.
So.
And the question I always like to ask, you learn a lot from your failures, just as much as your successes. So open it up to you. Mm-hmm. Any, great success that sticks to you in that 33-year career, or a failure that you might have learned over the long run of, hey, I've been in this situation, I've seen the market do this before, we are definitely not doing something, or again, pick your end of the spectrum, but anything that sticks out?
You know, in 33 years, I've had a little bit of both.
I would imagine.
You know, everyone in the department, you know, has to experience failure to some degree. That's how we learn. It's our role as managers to make sure that that failure is small in scale. So there have been stock picks that haven't worked out, multiple stock picks that haven't worked out over the years. But on the flip side, I've had some successes as well. I was an early player, along with several others in the department, but kind of introducing technology into our stock portfolio. You know, back in the early 90s, our portfolio was largely healthcare, pharmaceutical type names, electric utilities, and banks, because those were all dividend-paying stocks, and we didn't own technology. They used to take a lot of their money and reinvest it back into the business. They still do,
Yeah.
but not many paid dividends. In the late 90s, early 2000s, I was part of the group going into the you know, 1990s, early 2000s. I was part of the group that was kind of dabbling in technology stocks. Where could we find an opportunity to buy into technology that fit our philosophy of dividend growth? So I was one of the guys tasked with finding those opportunities. We started dabbling, building the portfolio, and it went from an exposure in technology of 0 in the early 2000s to now the biggest sector in our entire equity portfolio at over 30% of the stock portfolio. So
Wow.
that's been a great success, and you know, it's almost scares me to think where we'd be if we hadn't invested in technology. But we didn't deviate from our strategy, which was dividend growth. So we were able to add to the policy, but stay within the parameters of our investment parameters.
You mentioned technology from that sector in the portfolio. What about technology along AI fronts and, you know, the stuff that's maybe helping, aiding, improving efficiency? You know, what's technology doing on the actual investment side of your business?
It's a big help in streamlining our ability to go through a lot of data. There's a lot of information out there, and we are tasked with sifting through all that data to make an investment decision, whether it's a buy, a sell, a hold. So AI in particular allows us to kind of sift through and really get to the core of the information we really need to utilize to make the decisions. We're in the final stages of our implementation of a new system and investments which will allow us to manage the portfolio and identify risk and manage risk within the portfolio. It was a pretty big step for us, but we really feel that it's going to help us as the portfolio grows to really manage it better. And you know, as an insurance company, and we've talked about this, it's managing risk. And we manage risk on the insurance side, but we've got to manage risk on the investment side as well. And this system will allow us to be more efficient in our ability to manage risk, identify risk, make changes to the portfolio to manage that risk. So technology continues to help us become more efficient.
Yeah. Crystal ball, 10 years from now, you see any major disruption, you know, change, you know, in the industry, again, in the role of your day-to-day? Do you see it changing much with technology?
It's hard to look past AI at this point. That's the big one out there. And, you know, as a company, we are embracing AI on all fronts, and certainly within our department. I'm hopeful that we'll continue to kind of allow that to take a bigger role in what goes on. And again, not to replace the people that we've got in the department, but to free them up to do more things, to better analyze the portfolio and maybe take on additional newer responsibilities where we can let AI do more of the mundane tasks to streamline things and allow us to become more efficient.
Yeah, awesome. And as we wrap up here and kind of talked a lot about mentorship. You've mentioned it multiple times throughout your career. So I always ask, you know, if you were to talk to someone, you know, just graduating, you know, and you fast forward to 35 years, you might be in investment. What advice, guidance would you give someone kind of in that stage in their life when they're trying to figure it out?
You touched on it earlier. As a college kid now, and I talk to a lot of interns, you know, you want to find or identify those mentors, but the key to getting to that point is to building your network. LinkedIn is a fascinating tool that allows people to meet people, stay connected with people. I'm old school. 35 years ago, I was grabbing business cards at every meeting I went to, and I'd turn it around and scribble the place, the date, what we talked about, and I kept them in shoe boxes. That's efficiency right there. But over the years, to your point earlier, you never know when that person might be someone that you are interviewing with, or you're interviewing at their company, and you reach out to them and say, hey, I'm interviewing with your company with this person, and that guy says, I trained that guy. Let me talk to him about it. So building that network is key to get your foot in the door. And like I said, LinkedIn is a great tool to be able to do that. But that's my biggest advice to people is, you're young, get out and meet people, talk to them about their experiences, go have coffee.
Yeah.
I've grilled my son with this, and he's taken off with it fast, just incredibly. He's just finished his freshman year at Liberty University, and he is a social butterfly in like nobody's business. He's meeting people for coffee or lunch or breakfast and creating networks, because he doesn't know where he'll be coming out of college or what interests he's going to have at that point. But knowing more people and having a network to be able to reach out to with, hey, this kind of interests me, you're involved in this, can we meet and talk? And can you give me some inside information on how to prepare myself for that role, or what can I best do to get those interviews? That's the best tool you can provide to a college kid now, is build the network so that you have the people you can reach out to and connect with, and then be there and reach out to them. Actually utilize that resource. I'm going to go off on a tangent here, but I know work from home became a big thing during COVID. And there are some efficiencies that go with it, but I cannot stress the importance of being in the office and being able to identify those people as a young hire that are moving and shaking, making things happen. Those are the people you want to try to get them to mentor you. You want to meet them, talk with them. Hey, how did you become good at this? What do I need to do to get to where you are now? That doesn't happen staring at a screen on a video call 5 days a week from your kitchen or your bedroom. You need to be in the office rubbing elbows, or sitting in a meeting and being overwhelmed with something that you don't understand, and then walking out and grabbing them by the elbow and going, hey, can we talk about this?
Let's go figure it out.
Let's go talk. I need to learn about this. That doesn't happen on a Teams call. So I cannot stress enough, being in the office, as much as it seems to be an inconvenience, it will help your career immensely as a young person trying to grow in a corporate community.
Yeah. And I've just read something about teaching kids to be curious. Like, I don't know if that's taught, but it definitely can be encouraged to try and do all those things that you just said. So again, appreciate the time, all the insight you had today, and taking the time. And anything else to leave our audience with as we close out?
No particular words of wisdom, but like I said, be engaging, reach out, talk to people. Communication is the key to everything nowadays. So
yeah, appreciate it. Thanks for your time.
You got it.
Thanks for joining in. Catch you on the next episode of Beyond the Policy. Thanks for hanging out with me on Beyond the Policy. If you got something out of today's conversation, pass it along to a friend, client, or colleague who might enjoy it too. You can always connect with me through the show notes or on LinkedIn. And remember, the best coverage always starts with the right conversations. Until next time, be better.